order this meeting of the St. Augustine Port Waterine Beach District. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is the invocation. Do we know whose turn it is this week?
I think it was mine last time, but I deferred to Tom.
Right, so that should make it me, I think. Number 3, I've just got a brief quote prepared. Let us remember that as much as has been given us, much more will be expected from us, and that true homage comes from the heart as well as from the lips, and shows itself in deeds. Elise, could you call roll?
Sure. Commissioner Rivers?
Here.
Commissioner Way?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Flowers?
Here.
Commissioner West?
Here.
Next order of business is adoption and approval of the agenda. Any modifications to the agenda as written? Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to approve?
I believe there's one change. Attorney Clay.
Oh, this is just for the agenda.
This is for the agenda.
Oh, the agenda. Okay, I move approval.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. Next, we have public comment.
You're up.
Good afternoon. Tim Ford, 99 Dolphin Drive. I'm here representing essentially 3 blocks in our neighborhood that all border the boat basin over on Davis Shores, kind of by the foot of the Bridge Alliance there.
The boat basin, you said?
Yes. Yes, the boat basin.
When you mean the harbor front there, the bayfront at the Bridge Alliance, like where the hotel is and stuff?
No, ma'am. The boat basin is perimeter. It's south of the Bridge Alliance.
Oh, in that
It's-
little hole
yeah,
that
the
goes
little
back up
cove
behind the
thing there.
grocery store there? Yeah.
Yes.
I know what you're, okay,
yes,
go ahead.
exactly,
Thank
yes.
you.
What we were requesting was to see if we could possibly make a presentation, get on the agenda for next month, and make a presentation to the board in regards to a possible partnership to do a cleanup of the entrance at the entrance of the basin. We have paid to maintain the basin ourselves over the years. We spent, I mean, there's all 3 blocks there. We spent about $750,000 to dredge the basin, but right now the basin entrance has shoaled up to where at a little past half tide, it is now impassable, so we have a safety issue, a hazard to navigation coming across there. At low tide, there's actually birds walking straight across the sandbar there. We were hoping to make a presentation, and we're working with the city, who has offered to help with some logistics in regards to information that we would need, technical stuff in regards to scope of work, the contractor that we may or may not be able to work with that will be working in the area sometime next year also. But what we would like to do is to see if the board would be willing to help us out to get this entrance opened again.
Can I ask why you need the board's help if you guys have been paying to maintain the basin yourselves?
It's a funny thing. The basin stops at the seawall as it rolls in. Mm-hmm. So we're only allowed to do with our permit from inside that point, and then from that point out to the intercoastal, where the shoal is the no man's land kind of thing.
I'm sorry.
We had petitioned fine a number of years ago, maybe 15 years ago, to help with that, and with no luck, because they claim, that territorial thing also.
And about how many property owners did you say are affected by this? How many?
There's 24.
24. Okay.
Can I have a question?
Now, there was 24 when we did it, but now there are, I think there's 7 more, because there were some vacant lots that are now built on. So, yes, ma'am.
We pay taxes to keep all this dredging up, so why homeowners end up spending $500,000 or more than $500,000 dredging, I don't understand. I would be all in for anything like that. Hospital Creek, Marsh Creek, all those creeks where people live on deserve to be dredged. You pay taxes for that to the port to do dredging. So not only would I be very interested in dredging everything up there, I'd be very interested in dredging the whole thing out and not having people pay their own, after you pay your taxes to a dredging authority, you still got to go do your own dredging? I guess I don't understand that, but I'd certainly be interested in looking at not just doing that, but why we did that. Other little spots that are all over, like Hospital Creek, same thing. You got the bumps. It becomes unnavigable, as you know.
Yes, ma'am.
One bump is
Yes,
all
ma'am.
it takes.
Yes, and what the problem is that we have is that this shoal, which runs parallel to the shore there and along the channel there, without getting into too much detail, has blocked up the basin from being able to do its natural flush. The city has a number of stormwater drains that come into the basin that adds to this, and that has increased the level since we dredged it. So
Of silt and
where if
whatnot.
this thing was cut out deep enough
Yeah.
and wide enough, the natural flow of the current would drag out the slough, which essentially we have slough, but the entrance is hard
Right.
ground.
Right.
You
Coming in
ruin a
through all the
boat
drains
going in
and
and out of
silting
there.
up.
Yes.
So just a question, what would happen if, you said you and the homeowners have been dredging, what if, it comes a time where people age and whatnot, and you can't find enough homeowners to help you dredge it out? I mean, one person could get stuck wanting to have a,
Without getting into, again, eating up too much time, whatever you would allow me anyhow, but the thing is that a number of those properties, since we did this, have turned over now, and there's a bunch of people that had been living in there, a lot of them since the late 50s, early 60s, and, some through the 70s, early 80s, that some of them were reluctant to participate
Right.
originally, but once we collected 75%, the rest of them kind of,
but it
looked up
could,
and
I'm
said
just saying,
it's
it
good
could
for
certainly
everybody.
be an issue down the
Yeah.
road. And
So-
that's why I think that government, when we collect taxes to do dredging, that we should, maybe put it on a schedule. I said Hospital Creek's in trouble. I haven't really checked Marsh Creek yet, but all of them are silting up in places, and it only takes one or two bumps to
So
make it
the
complete.
question before us is, would we be willing to put this on a future agenda to discuss it? Is
And
that
let
right?
me
And
make
to accept a
a
presentation?
presentation, and the city has offered, again, like I said, to help me coordinate, which they have in the past, been very helpful, as this board had also previously. When we did this, the board gave us, I think it was $23,000 seed money.
30? Was it 30?
Hey, Tim, can
I
you,
can remember,
Yeah.
I remember when it happened. It was like, our revenue around that time was like 300,000, because this was, and then we gave you guys, I think, 30, and I can look that up again.
Yeah, and I believe, and that was the seed money for we had engineering done at that time. We had to have everything done to permit for the Army Corps. Of course, and the DEP and everybody, we had to go through everything. A lot of them signed off as saying, hands off, it's not us, but they did sign off on it.
So do you think
yes.
you guys would be prepared to speak by the next meeting?
I believe so,
So
yes.
does anybody have any objection to adding that to the agenda for the next
No, I'm in
meeting?
favor
There's
of
going to
it.
Love
be
to talk
a
to you
grant
about it.
application that needs to be submitted in advance, and if the city is
Right.
the applicant for the grant application, then we would want a representative from the city here as well to answer any questions.
hey, Tim, could you do, I know when they dredged that out years ago, when you guys did all of this.
Yes.
I wasn't on the board, but can you kind of walk through how the port got involved with that? And
Yes, at that point in time, of course, because the port was the main connector to the intercoastal from what is considered the city property. The basin is the city property. The city actually owns the seawalls.
You talking about this basin? Then you're
Yes,
talking about-
in the
So if
basin.
it's city property, it's public property, okay.
Yes, and that's part of what the deal was, is that to expect, because at that time, it was almost impassable 90% of the time. We were, notified that it's not private property, that we had to work with the city, and the city was the lead in regards to this. They were the permittee to all the agencies. They were the overseer in regards to the scope of work, execution, the contracts, all the rest of that. They were amazing what they rallied together for us. And then they allowed us to do an MSBU, and the city worked with us in regards to that. So the funding came through there. We were then, taxed each year additionally for
Wow.
the 24
Even though the
houses.
public can still go up there and fish all they want, you guys were taxed extra to do the dredging. Okay.
Well, yes, but we volunteered
I understand.
for it because we knew that it would, obviously benefit us. But yes, and it's become a pretty popular little spot for kayakers. We have a lot of manatee activity, dolphin in there. It's like a little SeaWorld at certain points of time of the day. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But right now, we're not getting that activity because these things can't cross that hard barrier. So it's inhibiting the safety and navigation plus the other activity that naturally should occur in there.
So I'll make a motion that we put on the agenda for next month a presentation for the Dolphin Drive Basin folks.
Great.
I'll second it.
Great, all in favor? Aye. Good, thank you, see you next month.
Thank you very much.
Any other public comment?
Wait for
Thank you for that. Ed Slavin, box 3084, edslavin.com. I think I attended the city meeting in or about 2009 when this MSBU was approved. There's a different city attorney at that time, but I totally agree with y'all and Mr. Ford. I don't see why that would require an MSBU. I think we have the funds here at the port to do this.
I don't know why private, this
Exactly.
is just a new trend where they look to private, they do it down in Flagler or whatever, where all those things.
And in
they
response
use
to
private
the
homeowners
chairman's
to dredge
invocation,
the
Rose
public
Kennedy's
property.
favorite Bible verse was, "To whom much is given, much is expected." I don't think they should have had to pay extra taxes to do that. And we've got a different city attorney now, and I think she's more scholarly than the prior guy. Anyway, I wanted to talk about the 7-generation test that we've talked about several times and about the National Park and Seashore. This is a key time. And Richard Grosso's wife is now the Assistant Secretary of the Interior for Parks, Fish, and Wildlife. And this is a time that I think we can get the National Park and Seashore moving in Congress, finally, after 1939. 2 years after this board, 2 years after this district was established, the proposal was made in Congress to have a National Park and Seashore. And I think we can do that. And in terms of fulfilling the 7-generation test, thinking about how our actions will impact the future and your grandchildren and their grandchildren, it's time and it's right. Speaking of something that's timely, I wanted to address the issue of wake zones. It came to my attention that fairly recently there was a large ocean-going fishing vessel, sport fishing vessel, speeding, and I don't know the exact speed. I don't know how to convert from miles an hour to knots, but I'm told it could have been 60 miles an hour and caused a couple $1,000s worth of damage to a sailboat that was located at the Fish Island Marina. And the boat said Chubba on the side. Apparently Chubba is an athlete with the Florida State University football team, a quarterback. Now he's apparently going to go to Nebraska. But I hope that the people who were victimized that, including the owner of the establishment that had damage to its docks and also some of the people who had boats there, I hope they're able to achieve a remedy. And I think this board could pass a resolution, just precatory, just advocacy, but ask the powers that be, whoever that would be, the Fish and Wildlife Commission or the city. I know the county has in the past expanded the no-wake zone. But there's entirely too much speeding on the Matanzas River, and I understand also there's some concerns that people had about a vendor for services for wave runners, apparently maybe not even a licensed business, not on land, renting out wave runners, and people disturbing the peace and the peaceful, quiet enjoyment of people at the south end of the Matanzas River. And I think something needs to be done about that. Hopefully, the gentleman from law enforcement will address that in some of their comments, and maybe they could also comment about Chubba. But Chubba needs to be fined. Chubba needs to be reined in. People should not be speeding that fast. It's a life safety issue. In the past, there have been people who lost limbs and lives because of speeding boats on Matanzas River. Also, noted that on your agenda, and I hope we'll have public comment on that under Florida Statute 286, but there's an item about renewing the attorney's contract. I would vote no if I were you. And he attempted to charge me recently $500 as a deposit. I asked, and there was a lot of delay, I asked for his emails. Would to charge me $250 an hour. I don't think we have any clerical employees in St. Johns County that are paid $250 an hour. And in 1992, the people of Florida, 83% of the people in Florida, voted to adopt Article 1, Section 24 of our Florida Constitution, the Open Records Law, Sunshine Law. And you swore an oath, as did your attorney, to obey the Constitution and laws of the United States and the state of Florida. He has shown contempt for public participation. He has shown contempt for First Amendment protected activity, including one of your commissioners. He has animus. He has hostility. He has a record of mediocrity. And he's not the person to be your attorney. You need to have a real environmental attorney, somebody like Ralph Brooks, who I've encouraged to apply if there's a vacancy, somebody who knows the environment, somebody, I don't think it's a BFOQ to hire a workers' compensation defense lawyer with no distinguished characteristics at all, and have him try to stiff requesters and charge, $250 an hour to produce his emails. That dog won't hunt. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hearing nothing. That moves us on to government representative comments.
I won't be the captain. Good afternoon, Jim Piggott, City of St. Augustine. I have 4 or 5 items for you today, nothing really long. First one, just want to let everyone know that we have started a water shuttle service at our city marina. We have 2 companies. They're going to be picking up every hour. They have a 15-minute standing time where they can unload and load, and then one company leaves to go wherever, whether it's a private restaurant or over to Volano or wherever, and then the second company comes in 30 minutes later after they touch. They haven't really started yet. I mean, the license agreements are signed, but the first 90 days is going to be a pilot program for them to see how well they do, what the ridership is, and so on and so forth. So,
Is this the pontoon boats the 2 pontoon boats?
Yeah, it's,
One of them's a pontoon boat. I don't think the other is the big red boat. So
do they have any kind of city grant to help them out? Because at $15 a head, it didn't stay alive at $8 a head.
that's what they wanted to charge, and there is
Well, they're
no,
going to have to, so I'm saying, is there any kind of
no
government?
city grant for that,
So
no.
it'll fail again.
They have free dockage where they can just drop off, pick up.
Do they pay for that, or they just
They pay $5 for every time. That's what we charge, $5 an hour.
pull up?
So every time they drop is $5. So, the next thing I have is I have 2 invoices, both of which your treasurer has. One fairly good news and the other is not so bad news. I had asked in the December meeting for $6,079 to pull a boat. The final expense came in at $6,864.18, primarily because it was a lot heavier. The hull was made of a lot more, so it weighed considerably more than what was anticipated. So that's the additional $785.18.
Is that the one that was in the corner by the bridge?
Yes, that was the one that was in the corner by the bridge.
Watkins, okay.
And the second invoice that your treasurer has, I gave to her, it was for another boat where I asked in January of this year for $390. The actual price came in at $259. So with that said, if I did my math correctly, I'm asking the board for the $655.12 that would cover the additional cost.
Jim, I got to ask you about that now, seriously. Telling us when they salvage a vessel, he's going to patch that thing and he tows it around to the boatyard where they haul it out. I have never heard anybody say we need more money because it weighed more. They don't do it by the weight.
This is what the contractor, and I could ask Corey if you have any further details on that, if he
Could
wants
you
to come
explain
up.
why it was more? Was it the boatyard or was it the tow? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Corey Sackard, City of St. Augustine. Basically, when we haul it out at the St. Augustine Marine Center, they haul it out, they scrape the bottom,
Yeah.
and then they drive it over with their crawler to the wastewater treatment plant for the city. There at the city, we have city technicians, dismantle it, and then they take it for tipping fees. That's the extra weight. When we go to St. Johns County to
Oh,
properly
they take
dispose of it.
what's left
Yes,
over
ma'am.
to dispose of it? So we've already destroyed that boat.
Yeah, we destroyed it, and then we take it over, and then within 1 or 2 days, we liquidate the whole thing.
So you take all the good stuff off of it. I mean, they salvage the
Yeah,
good
we
stuff.
salvage what we, generally, sometimes we do straight port money when we can, when it's an emergency, and then when we have a longer project, we do a port find grant, and find requires us with their grant to recycle what materials we can, and a lot of times we're talking, just a $40,
It doesn't
$50
come
in
to
aluminum.
much, yeah.
Just something, not much, but
And
they
that boat
require
didn't
us
even
to
have a
put it
lead
back into
keel
our
on
program.
it to
Pardon?
sell? We couldn't even sell off the lead keel on, that didn't even have a lead keel.
Point is, we take it back, and again, we utilize, I think we go to Leth, yeah. And then it's our streets and grounds crew that takes care of it, and they have way more experience than we do.
And they just cut it up,
They
basically.
do. They cut it up, they take it back, and we get between $40 to $60, and we roll it right back into our derelict vessel program.
Just to mention that there is a place in the middle of Florida where they take fiberglass boats, they grind them up. It's very rough aggregate, and you can take that and put it in our roads when we pave our roads, and it makes our roads impervious to water.
We can take a peek at that. It might increase the cost, because now we're talking about storing those, those just.
No, I'm not saying do that, I'm just saying there is a place that we can buy this aggregate very cheaply to throw into, it's just such a simple thing. I've talked to the city many times, and we have such problems with our roads that, I'm not saying that we should individually, the few boats that we have, but the state collects these boats, and takes them over to a place in the middle of Florida, they grind the fiberglass up, and that fiberglass, put it in the road,
Recycle.
look at our, it's just something to mention,
Yes, ma'am.
because it's cheap.
So we have a request for an additional $655, have I got that right?
And 12 cents.
And 12 cents, pardon me.
Important part.
Do I have a motion in favor of,
I'll make that motion.
or we have a motion?
I'll second
There's a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great.
The third thing that I had, I could talk a little bit about what Mr. Ford talked about just off the cuff. The original dredging of the Dolphin Drive Basin happened before I even got to the city. I got to the city in 2006. I want to say it happened around 2002, 2003 timeframe. 10 years later, 2013, we came to the Port District, and we took, first of all, the city applied for the permit with the Corps of Engineers. We got the permit, and we dredged out the neck going into the Dolphin Drive Basin. We found that was critical because of the flow of the tides that we have. That kind of keeps that basin clean. And what they were responsible for was the inside, so we were helping them out with that, or the port was. It's going to be 10 years later when we get to it, which will be either before or right after when we dredge salt run this coming winter time, which will be the 10-year mark when, help keeping it open and so water can flow in and out and help keep that cleaner inside. So that's that. And then lastly, wanted to just take the port's temperature, if you will. I know it's came up several times about kayak launches, paddleboard. And as you know, I think Commissioner Flowers had brought up that property on May Street where they want to put docks and boat motels or whatever out there in our
We're not
plan.
supposed to talk about that, though, Mr. Piggott, we're not supposed to talk about it yet because it might come up here.
We're not supposed to vote on it, Sandy.
I'm sorry, you told me I couldn't talk about it, excuse
That's
me.
not what I said. Go ahead, Jim.
Our planning and zoning board voted that down, so the property is still there. And talked to Carl Blow, our fine rep, who actually contacted me and our city manager and want to know if there would be a partnership with the port and find possibly to buy that property and turn it into like a kayak launch, a paddleboard place. I don't have any prices at this time, but I know we had been talking about trying to get some waterfront property, or the port has.
What street was that on?
It's on May Street.
It's directly across
It's
from
directly across from,
the driveway I've been trying to develop or repair
on the
as a
south
kayak
side?
match.
It's on the west side.
West side, yeah.
On the south side, yes, southwest.
The, and the one pro would be, that would be all of either, it'd be in the city's property. So it wouldn't be like 1/4 port property and 3/4 FDOT property. It would all be our property. We would maintain it, keep it, operational, trash cans and bumpers and all that for vehicles. So I just wanted to see if you guys would be interested. I don't know the price. It could be upwards of $1 million since it's waterfront.
$1 million for that little piece of thing you can't do anything with? Oh, Lord, no. Y'all must be crazy.
So I just wanted to run that by y'all, see what you thought.
It's worth looking at.
Yeah, definitely worth looking at.
Yeah, the nice thing is directly across from it, we already own the spot to develop into a fabulous kayak thing, and all I did was get arguing about you even tried to stop me from filling the potholes. I can't believe now you come and you want us to buy something for $1 million just because it will take the pressure off the city. Why would we do that when we have a place for free right across?
And that's fine if that's all what you want to do, but the 3/4 of that property is not the port's property, it's DOT's right away.
Yes, but
This would be
DOT
all
has
of-
told us, Mr.
And
Pickett,
Sandy,
that
let
they're
him
fine with
finish.
it.
This would be all of, the city's property and would be dedicated towards the sole purpose of a kayak launch paddleboard place.
Is it flooded?
And let me
High
respond. DOT has already had a meeting. I've had a meeting with them with about 12 engineers around the table, and they have been waiting for years for us to turn that whole spot over there. They're more than happy for us to build it up, put a light, put a trash can, anything. They're happy. They're waiting on us. And it's free. And DOT's not charging us but $1 a year to lease it. And by doing that, it would actually help save the road.
So that's, I'll come back after I get some more research done and prices. Find is very interested. There's some things that we would have to go through, for instance. It would be in the same grant cycle as what we do for salt run dredging. So we would have to get the grant application in next March. And as you heard Commissioner Blow talk several times, his district has between $550,000 and $600,000 usually. This could be half of that or most of that. And then you have the dredging of Salt Run, and then whatever else the county may have. So let's just say we move forward, we purchase that property, then there'll be a phase 2 of constructing, I'm assuming it's going to be a dock or a kayak launch site or whatever. Probably it won't be nearly as much as purchasing, but that would be another permitting and procuring and building that site. According to the fine rules, if you purchase the property, you have 7 years to develop it to what you said it was going to be.
And
So
then if you
there's a
don't do
7
that
year-
and actually put a kayak ramp on it, then what happens?
From find?
Yeah, because we've waited
Then we have
years
to-
and
we have-
years
we have
and
to
years
return
and
the
years
money.
for the county to do a boat ramp. We've been told one excuse after another. So after the 7 years, when y'all don't put an actual kayak launch on there, what happens to it?
You gotta get the money back.
Right.
Yeah, he just explained that.
You have to pay us back the $1 million.
Whatever your contribution
Okay.
is. So that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Could you bring us a plat showing the outline of the property?
Sure,
And, or probably send it to Elise, and she can email it to us.
sure.
Okay.
Did the city look at it preliminary to see whether it would
We
jump
just
through all the
actually
hurdles?
started talking about this literally 2 or 3 days ago.
Oh, okay.
And just wanted to come and get your temperature, talk to Commissioner Blow, and he's kind of, really saying this could be a good idea type thing.
So the $1 million we kind of have lingering for the county to help us get a really big boat ramp that's going to take some, especially under 312 Bridge in our district, that could take some of the pressure off of Volano and provide St. Augustine Beach with so much. That's about $1 million floating out there, and we would be chunking it on this one kayak ramp that we have, one right across the creek from it. So again, it doesn't look like it's really adding much for our kayakers. It's much more, this is a big fat favor for the city. And I don't have the way the city does everything they can, and particularly you, Mr. Pickett, to keep everybody out the water. Why would we think you'd put a kayak launch on it? You got money for the kayak launch in Lincolnville, but we didn't get that. That was $130,000.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the owner ADG May Street LLC? Do you
The
know?
owner is a guy named Kevin Van Dyke.
Keys Incorporated. According to the property appraiser, it's appraised at $810,000. I'd love to learn more. Thank you for bringing it up and bringing it to our attention.
Van Dyke, so.
Yeah, it is Kevin Van Dyke. So, all right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Elise, if we can make sure that's on the agenda.
Well, yeah, Jim, are you going to be, sorry, are you going to be able to talk more about that next month, or are we just kind of waiting until more
If I am,
developments?
I'll get with Elise and put it on the agenda. I'm not
Okay.
sure how much information we'll have.
Great.
You know, it could be a big dollar figure, and we're like, no, we don't want to touch that, so.
Right.
If you could get that to us before the meeting would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Government representatives.
You want a submarine?
I say, yes, he needs a submarine.
I'll take that. Josh Underwood, Sheriff's Office.
Hey, before you continue, I believe congratulations are in order, are they not? Did you just get a big promotion?
Yeah, he did.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I
Lieutenant
appreciate
Underwood, I
that.
think,
Yeah,
right?
Lieutenant. I took over aviation, marine, agriculture, and horses.
Wow.
And I wasn't here last meeting, but I really want to thank you for your responsiveness on the navigational buoy and getting that taken care of.
Yeah,
I
no
was
problem at
texting
all.
you on off hours, and I really appreciate your
No
prompt
problem at
response.
all. First two things I'll bring up, your public comment talked about Fish Island's wake zone or expansion or whatever. First, I think the board should be aware that myself, the Sheriff's Office, and FWC have given Fish Island plenty of opportunities to remove their illegal, non-permitted, no wake zone signs that they have up. They're a violation of state statute. So again, he will be notified that he's going to have a time frame to remove those signs. They're not supposed to be up because they're not permitted by Florida Administrative Code.
And it's true, the marina, you're tied to the dock with no protection from wakes.
Correct.
And I have, what he was talking about was my boat. I took $2,000 worth of damage tied to a dock, paying big money, where you would expect, I've never seen a marina that was lying outside of a no-wake zone with a floating dock out on the intercoastal. Are they not supposed to be a marina?
Well, they're not, you can still be a marina, but there's still, the under Florida State Statute 32746,
I know
there's
they're not supposed
certain
to have signs.
criteria that they have to meet to have a wake zone.
Right.
They don't meet the criteria
Okay, so
for a
they
wake
need to
zone.
take the sign. A lot of people have signs up, but
The
yeah.
bridge zone that is currently right there
Yeah.
is a DOT bridge, so it is permitted as a wake zone. Because
no
it's
wake
a
zone.
DOT bridge.
This
It
just-
only comes so far.
Just
and then you
slightly
have to meet-
south, right?
Just
I mean,
like
it's
at
just south of
Gunung's.
the marina.
Correct, just like it, yeah, correct. Gunung sits outside of the wake zone.
Right.
So
So
they have to meet.
we have a lot of damage. So really, the only choice we have is just file a civil action against them.
Correct. Well, the only way he could truly get a wake zone
Mm-hmm.
there is if he had DEP come in and do an environmental survey and do a cleanup basically, and then put fuel services there.
I heard about the fuel.
would have to
I also heard
meet-
that it's zoned conservation now.
Correct. So I don't think he would meet the fuel guidelines, being that it's a conference.
So are they trying to get the marina to disappear, or,
I'm not for sure.
yeah?
But there is certain guidelines he would have to meet to become a wake zone. One of the guidelines that we recently found out with expanding another wake zone in the county is you have to have a concurrence from the Coast Guard. And on every wake zone expansion or creation in the state of Florida, they want a 365-day vessel study of how much vessel transit comes in there for 365 days.
There's plenty of transit. What kind of money, do you have any clue what that would, no clue?
I don't. You could ask the county because they were having to do that with Palm Valley.
Right.
So I'm not sure what that was costing
Well,
them to
Harbor
do
Master
that.
said it would definitely involve a study, you know.
Correct.
So, and that's a year-long study, you say, yeah.
Correct. That's what the Coast Guard
So
requires.
now, when we get physical damage and I get thrown down and my shoulder gets torn or something, is that still something you can call law enforcement about once you
Right,
get
because
physically
you
hurt?
could wake damage from a boating accident.
And you get physically hurt, it's okay, but if it's just damage to your boat, it's a civil claim.
Correct.
Okay.
The public comment talked about the liveries. There is a livery statute in the state of Florida, 32754, where you have to meet certain guidelines if you're renting boats or you're renting wave runners, jet skis, whatever the content may be. The South Matanzas one that was brought up in public content has been inspected. They do meet all the livery guidelines for the state of Florida, so they are operating
But that's the
within
business down
guidelines.
at the fort area that everybody's upset because they're doing it
Correct.
below the high time, so it's not below the high time. They've already met their,
Correct, so they're not, it's not occurring on fort property, on national park property. It's occurring on the sandbar.
Right.
And they're meeting all the livery guidelines within the statute book, meaning
When you say livery, what's that mean?
livery means anybody that rents or
Rents
has some
vehicles.
vessel for hire.
Okay, right.
So they're meeting all the guidelines of boating safety requirements.
Are they paying, I mean, they still have to
They're
pay sales
paying-
tax, right?
Correct.
Okay, so
They have the business license. That company down there does have a business license through the state of Florida.
so they're
So
only,
they've been checked for all that. And we are watching that as well as the National Park Police, so everybody's keeping an eye on them. But as you guys know, as we come into boating season, there are more companies that we had last year that are doing rentals. So that's a big push here in this county, and the Coast Guard has also been very involved with illegal charters.
I've seen some of
so-
that. But it is nice for people to get out on the water when they're in
Correct.
town. It's nice to have them.
Yes,
If
ma'am.
they're done well.
The other thing I got, Comanche Cove, the fuel update. I know everybody was asking about that. So just in short, the investigation, we're kind of in a standstill right now. All the cameras have been checked, all the witnesses have been interviewed, and nobody has seen anything. Mysteriously, the cameras at Comanche didn't work the night this occurred, so there's no video evidence of the criminal mischief. And so the way it's looking at right now is, from the investigation, is basically that boat owner paid to have some work done. He did not pay for the completion of the work, and mysteriously his boat was damaged in the middle of the night by taking a water hose on the dock and sticking it in the fuel tank and letting the fuel run out.
165 gallons of not gasoline, which would have evaporated,
Diesel.
but diesel that sinks to the bottom and comes back up again when we bucket dredge to go into the water. But that is so mysterious.
Now, the Coast Guard did take the lead on the pollution side of it, and they did have their pollution people come out and do that side of the investigation. The second thing is the Coast Guard Search and Rescue Conference is occurring today and tomorrow. It's in St. Augustine. It's happening at the White Room downtown. So commissioners, if you guys get an opportunity and you want to pop in tomorrow.
Was that what was going on at the city with all the government cars today?
Yes, ma'am.
And they're up in the White Room?
Yes, ma'am.
And we can go up there and listen to them?
Yes, ma'am.
What time's that start tomorrow?
Starts at 8:30. So, it'll probably go tomorrow until 3. And then the last thing is, FWC, I know is going to talk about it, but the sheriff's office is going to assist them. They've created a derelict vessel task force for our county solely, to put a lot more focus on derelict vessels, and I'll let Mr. Miller get up and talk a little more in depth on that, but we are participating in that as well. That's all I got, unless you guys have questions for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Bill Miller, Acting Lieutenant, FWC St. John's Flagler Coastal. Filling in for Zukowski while he's out.
Yeah, I'm just the old man here in case he falls down.
Like Josh said, of note, I just wanted to let the port know we have created the St. Johns County Derelict Vessel Task Force. So it's us, and so it'll be Florida Fish and Wildlife along with St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, St. Augustine Police Department, St. Augustine City Fire, and County Fire. We meet once a month, and then we're working together to facilitate a seamless, hopefully quicker response to some of these derelict issues in the county, because as we all know, it's, not going anywhere, and this is a problem we all have to deal with, so.
Is there a contact number, like who?
Yeah, I will give you my card after the meeting. I can hand out some cards, but we're going to have some task force actual cards made up, so hopefully next meeting we can hand those out.
This would definitely be something we would want to put on the website too.
Yeah, and we were talking about possibly doing some kind of something to where you guys can go in and see what's actively being worked, because as you know, the derelict vessel database is all public record, but making it more user-friendly is something that could be done. So make kind of a St. Johns County version of it. So.
That's great.
And the sheriff's office has an LE side of it, so we're trying to maybe make a public, version of it. So, any questions on the task force?
What is LE?
Law enforcement. Sorry. All right. Additionally, just briefing on, we had the blessing of the fleet last Sunday. We had approximately 120 boats, give or take, come through and get blessed.
it was uneventful, no major issues, no crashes. So everything was successful. We also have shorebird zones are active, so those have been posted and no dogs or people are allowed in those areas. So that's all I have.
Nothing about voting actions. Steve Zukowski, Lieutenant Fish and Wildlife. I'm sorry. I just found out about this yesterday, so Phil Horning, who's our person in Tallahassee, that we coordinate derelict vessel, we've got funding now to remove 4, so it should be happening shortly. That's all. Signing off.
The boat that last hit the bridge, the Liberty, are you familiar?
Yes.
It's
Yes,
the crump
I'm working
thing.
that.
I'll discuss that.
Yeah, that used to be a really nice vessel. School teacher Bob used to own it, and I don't know what's happened, but it still could be. But here's the thing. The only reason that boat hasn't hit the bridge or been wrapped up on the wall again yet is because it is hard aground at least 12 hours a day.
Yeah, Pat will be talking on that.
So
He's working
somebody,
that.
it's like, and I talked to the harbor master Eric, he said, they use the same anchor, which is, the road's not long enough, it's 1, and I'm just so afraid, I mean, it's just gonna be the same, can we do anything in the pre-stage of that, when it's sitting so obviously dangerous, ready to,
As far as, public safety response, we will respond when it obviously
We have to wait.
breaks loose, and
Yeah.
we'll deal with it, and we'll deal with it administratively as a derelict vessel.
so going
But
high and dry doesn't
On the
give you any.
in-between, that's on the vessel owner to take those preventative measures,
It sure is waiting to happen.
unfortunately.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other government reps? Looks like we got St. Augustine Police Department.
Good afternoon, Officer Harvey with the City of St. Augustine Marine Unit. Number one, thank you. I finally got all my, due to some issues with shipping, I finally received all of my electronics equipment from the last time we spoke. So that's in, it'll be put in the boat and functional by mid-May due to scheduling being pulling the boat out of the water. So, and I know the invoice was sent this morning, so that is done and over with. But again, functional by mid-May, which is different from my original application. The dates were off due to shipping.
Oh, okay.
The derelict vessel is the one that's off the port, off of the downtown. It is aground half the day. We are trying to figure out what to do with it now. We've had no response from the registered owner. It's been changed hands supposedly 5 times since then. But again, it goes back to what we discussed last time. The registered owner is responsible for it because it was never purchased or sold properly. We have a storage issue, so all of our derelicts now, we're having a problem getting rid of them due to the fact of storage. We have nowhere to put them. St. Augustine Marine Center cannot take any more. There's a waiting list for their own other paying customers to get in there, so we are just on the same list as they are. The boat from San Sebastian, the sunk 45-foot vessel, was pulled out last week. We didn't use any of your funds for that. That was done through FWC. So, but going forward, that's where we're gonna,
We're gonna be okay with the summer coming up and storms, where we're gonna put all the derelicts?
I don't know, ma'am. I don't have that answer for you.
So we don't, SAMC can't take another one, though?
No,
They
ma'am.
won't even take it out for us and take it over to the,
No, ma'am.
they won't?
They won't. No, ma'am. So the one that's out off in front of the port, I'm sorry, I keep saying the port, in front of the fort.
Yeah.
They kind of sound the same, I'm old. It will sit there until we decide what to do with it. Any questions?
I think so. No, thank you. Any other government representatives? Hearing nothing. Secretary Treasurer's report.
So far with the city police law enforcement overtime, we've spent $24.60. I know I just wrote a couple of more checks after this was printed. The St. Johns County Sheriff's Department overtime of the $25,000 budgeted, we've spent $10,450. Derelict boats of the $25,000 budgeted, we've spent $10,864 to date. So in our bank account for Florida State Board of Administration is $23,184. In the operating account, there's $450,833. In the money market account, we have 1,111,000, well, 112 really. And in the reserve, we have 1.5 million.
I had a question, Elise.
Uh-huh.
On the bottom, there's a reference to 90,000 for Volano dredge.
That's where it says unspecified
Specified
marine
marine. That's that
projects, the
97.5.
97.5 that was spent, that's what the 97.5 is.
Okay, so a new tactic of kind of spelling it out on the report.
Huh?
Because you haven't done that in the past. It's helpful, thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm doing it.
No, I appreciate
I'm doing
it.
now.
I appreciate it, it's good.
Let's see, and then, oh, I just lost my, okay, so for the taxes budgeted for this fiscal year, 621,283, we received to date 578,975, so we're still expecting 42,000 thereabouts. It'll come in piecemeal if it comes in, depending. See who pays the bills.
Good. Any other questions or comments on the Secretary Treasurer's report? No? Next up is approval of minutes from the March 15th, 2022 regular meeting. Any
Mr.
modific-
Chairman,
Yes.
if I could, I noticed or realized there is an issue on page 3 of the minutes. I'm not as familiar with some of the marine organizations up here, and misheard in the meeting the blessing of the fleet, and I put it in the minutes as the flexing of the fleet.
Okay.
Thinking law enforcement was going to show off their muscle. So that will be changed within the minutes. I don't know if there are any other proposed revisions by any members.
Do any other commissioners have any other?
I move approval of the minutes.
Okay, that's a motion for approval of the minutes with that change made. Any other?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No, for my
I'll
same
abstain.
reasons.
Okay, Jane has abstained. Sandy's voted no, so that is 3-1. Motion carries. Next is the engineering report.
Nothing specific,
I'm sorry. I mean, sorry to interrupt, but if I could also, technically, February's minutes are still outstanding due to the voting from last time.
Right, because we've had folks not
Roman
here for
abstaining,
it.
yes.
I think the
Right.
last one.
Who was at that meeting? Who attended the February meeting who could actually vote? I think Jane was there
I
and
was.
Chris was not, right? And so that's the issue. So now we can move to, so I will move to approve the minutes of the February meeting.
I'll second.
That's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No.
And I'd like
So
to
that's-
state for the public record why I never approve his meetings, because I've asked him many times to please not send me to meetings just a couple hours before the meeting itself, excuse me, the minutes, a few hours before the meeting itself. I always get it on the same day. Now, because so much of it is inaccurate and so much is not in the meetings that's important, comments that should be, I don't have enough time if you send that me, that's hours for me to sit down. I have to go back and look at my notes, listen to the meeting and see all the important comments that were said that you did not put down. So for the public, that's why I do not vote for these minutes.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I did not hear the second on that motion.
I second.
Oh, that was Jane.
Thank you. And also, just as a brief response, you've had the February minutes for over a month.
And there's still no.
Right.
Because it still doesn't include an awful lot. If you're not going to include important comments like Mr. Bruce R. Taylor standing back there telling this port that these commissioners will be here a few years, but he's going to be here forever, that's kind of important for taxpayers to know.
Okay. Next
Mr.
is.
Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
Let's just
Only
look
the
at what-
actions taken really should be in the minutes. The comments should not be in the minutes.
Right.
Proper minutes should
really?
include motion, whether it approved or not, and that's it.
I think important comments that are important to the taxpayers should be in the minutes.
Just a minute. Elise has a tape of everything that's said. If anybody wants to go back and review that, that's okay.
Actually, Tom, we
But
had one
wait
of
a
those
minute.
tapes.
Let him finish, Sandy.
The truth of the matter is, the minutes, in my opinion, are a little bit too detailed.
Right.
It should have an action, the result on everything, not all the discussion.
Right. I think everybody here agrees with that except one. Next up is
I have a right to
engineering
disagree
report.
with it.
We did no new work this month. One informational point is that the county has set aside $400,000 to study Summer Haven. And my understanding is, although I haven't seen anything in writing, is that there's another 120,000 or so from the state.
Yeah.
That.
60.
That
Last I knew,
budget
it was
has
still
not been
pending.
approved. by
I'm sorry?
the budget has not been approved by the governor yet.
Right.
But which one hasn't been approved?
The state,
State.
Okay.
still a question mark.
I've got a question on that. The $400,000 that the county just approved for that study is not even a feasibility study. It's a vulnerability study. It's $400,000 is twice what a normal vulnerability study would cost, and I've checked. And my question is, once again, why is the county, vulnerability is about, we know it's vulnerable. It's about identifying where it's vulnerable, but feasibility is about what is practical. And then it also identifies what your problems are going to be if you decide to go forward. So once again, we've been denied a feasibility study on what is practical to do at Summer Haven, and we've managed to spend tax dollars out of the county that we could have easily had covered by grants. Easily had cut $400,000, doesn't need to be spent, we could get a grant. Did you by any chance recommend that to the county?
I absolutely did not.
Next up is old business, discussion regarding scheduling of new days and times for meetings.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion. I move that the meetings remain as scheduled.
So we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion on that? I will say that I have looked at the two that, no, there's no public comment right now.
Yeah, there is, 286, you're about to make a decision.
No, there's
My
not.
public, yes, there is. I've given you the
Sit down,
statute, sir.
Ed, absolutely not.
You're absolutely wrong. I have a right to public comment.
Elise, do we need to call the police? You get one
I'll
more
call the
chance.
police and report you.
Can you please? Okay, you're gonna
If he's
sit down.
allowed,
Good.
if we're good, is the public not allowed to make a comment at the time we discuss something?
Public comment before and after, that is the
Place
extent
for
of
it, but
public
that's not
comment.
how, when the, other governors do that, when they're talking about something, you get a chance to comment about it.
But we are not, and we do not have to.
You are covered by 286, and yes, you do.
Okay, so we have a motion.
We'll follow up on that.
We have a motion and a second, which means we now have opportunity to discuss. Do any commissioners have any discussion regarding the motion on the floor
I'd like to discuss.
maintain the current time? Go ahead.
We've had many people call. I don't know if y'all have never had a complaint. I don't know if I'm the only commissioner that gets calls, but many times people have asked, why are we doing this in the middle of the day? We can't get to the meetings at 3 o'clock. And most important thing is, I've had multiple people tell me, I like to go to the county commissions, and I can barely do it. One came here today and has had to go back. He intended to be here, but because he couldn't make his public comment to a certain time over there, he could not be at this meeting. So it happens a lot. So that's my biggest thing is, there's no reason for something, and if you're going to spend tax dollars, try to do the meeting when it's not another committee
Excuse me.
meeting where people can at least comment at both places.
Any other discussion? No? So the motion on the floor is to maintain the meetings during their current time. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
No. All right, motion carries. Next, new business, discussion regarding port consultant. Okay. Guess we're going to sit tight on that for a sec.
We are?
Yeah, no, we're not. What are we talking about? We're going to continue the meeting. Discussion regarding port consultant, all commissioners. It has been proposed by, I believe Tom and Sandy have both said that we should consider getting a consultant. So let's hear more about it.
Well, I think we need to create a set of statistics of what we want in a person, and there's going to have to be some kind of a search for that person,
What'd y'all think about the
a consultant.
job description sent to you? That was pretty impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah, if
There
you're
are
hiring
actually
somebody to
people.
run Apple,
No. There are people, multiple people with those qualifications in our district. Can you believe that? You know I didn't write that myself.
So what is it that we're trying to
Yeah.
accomplish here?
That's the question that I have
we're
too.
missing right now?
Right.
We're trying to, up to me.
Sandy,
I asked a question, I was trying to
Wasn't
answer you.
done
I
yet.
I'm
wasn't
looking at you. I am asking Commissioner Rivers to
Oh, excuse me,
please.
I'll shut up.
Mr.
Well, it would be
Chairman,
nice if you
Like a
stopped
general question, and since I
interrupting
wrote the
me.
thing, I thought I was answering
Mr.
it.
Chairman, I'd have a suggestion. Why don't we, one of us, I'd be willing to do it, to contact Ken Crowder and have him give us a list of what we should be looking for in a person. Ken was an excellent consultant for us while he was
Lives in
here.
Canada.
He does.
Let him finish.
He does live in Canada.
But he can be reached by email.
She's making a comment too. You don't yell at her when she interjects something, you just yell at me.
Please continue.
Can't respond to that.
So could I have permission to contact Mr. Crowder and come back at the next meeting with a list of qualifications?
Of course, I'd also be really curious to know, if you get in touch with him, what he sees this person as actually doing. Because I remember Ken being here, he came to every meeting, but I don't recall him actually, I mean, he put together, I guess, the Port District workbook, which was valuable, but that was a one-time project, and then for months and months, he had nothing to do. So I'd also be really curious to hear what he had to say in terms of what this person's role actually would be.
Yes, that's what I want.
Right.
But I think
I'd like
he'd
to
be the
bring
best
somebody
one
too.
to talk to about it. Another thing he did for us was when we were talking about the floating dock in Volano Beach, he went with me out to Volano to speak to the Volano Beach people, and was very instrumental in helping us do the project in a correct manner. And it was successful.
So Commissioner Rivers, if I could inquire, so it sounds like you've got a couple like one-off projects that this individual helped facilitate. But in terms of a full-time job.
It's not full-time.
Okay, so what project, what issue is it? I'm just trying to understand the purpose.
Me too.
Okay, I can explain the purpose. May I? May I speak? The purpose is, we watched $372,000 contract not get bid and walk out the door. With this person, that's supposed to stop that. We watched people do a project for us that did not do the incremental inspections required by the state. This is the man that stops that, or woman. We watched people go and do a contract that was supposed to be required by the state to buy certain insurance. They didn't buy that insurance, so when everything went bad down in Summer Haven, who picked up the $93,000 extra? This board. The purpose of this person is, if we ever decide to do any work again, is to keep that from happening to us, because contractors have no obligation to us outside of their contract. And in fact, we gave all of our delegated authority to Taylor Engineering. They only bid the subcontracting, which, by the way, looks more like bid fraud than anything that's textbook I've ever seen. Imagine Turnbull out there bidding against other companies that are knowing they're not going to buy the insurance and knowing they're not going to be subject to inspections. It's illegal according to the Inspector General, and I've never been able to get this port to act on it, other than the fact that we did vote to do something and did nothing. That's what this person would do for this port, protect the taxpayer.
Then I think that what we're looking for is somebody with the qualifications that Ken had, who would have a more expanded role this time, because he only charged us for time when he worked for us. And this would be the same way, but it sounds like what you're saying, we'd have to expand his area of expertise.
The description that Commissioner Flowers just gave sounded like a contract attorney or fraud investigator.
Right.
None of the qualifications that were listed in the description that was
Actually, no,
sent
the
earlier.
police people that do
So,
the
I'm sorry,
contracts.
if you could please just stop interrupting
Go ahead,
anytime
ma'am,
someone
go right
else is
ahead.
talking.
I don't want to waste any more time of your time, please go ahead.
Commissioner Rivers, I'm wondering what I'm just trying to understand, the contract attorney,
Well,
fraud
yeah,
investigator
okay.
aside, what is,
If
what
we could
role?
go ahead and get a list of guidelines from Mr. Crowder, if you'd let me do that, bring it back to the next meeting, and we could discuss it intelligently.
Sure, let's do that. So, Tom, why don't you get in touch with Ken, and we'll discuss this in more detail at the
So if
next
this is
meeting.
going to be on the agenda, I'd also like to bring some other people to come in that have the kind of, Mr. Crowder didn't do anything for us
No,
and say, but
but
wait
this-
a minute, again, it's okay for everybody to do it but me. Mr. Crowder didn't save us from one thing at Summer Haven. His position was too high, he never had his boots on the ground. Okay? Now, we voted to take care of that, and we played a look-away game. And yes, in fact, some of the people I've spoken about this, these guys that do these contracts exactly do know what the contractor's up to. We had a lawyer when this happened. We had a lawyer when this happened, and we voted to do something about it, and we've been playing look-away game ever since. We're still playing look-away.
Okay, yeah, Sandy, if you want to bring somebody,
Thank you
if
so
that's an
much.
agenda item.
So let me get this straight. On next month's agenda, is it going to be for next month?
Yeah, more old business, discussion regarding port
Under
consultant.
old business,
Yep,
okay.
just,
Okay.
Do it again. Next up is discussion regarding retention of district's attorney. All commissioners. So Clay, the issue is that your contract is up for renewal. Is there anything else besides that we need to talk about?
It's actually not even up for renewal. The way the contract is worded, it was a one-year contract that would continue until terminated by either side.
Right.
This originally, I asked to put it on the agenda just so the commission would have an opportunity to know, it's now been a year.
Right.
How are we doing under this? How do we feel under this? It's been moved a few meetings because of that. Technically, I think the year was October, November. But it's something that continues until it's terminated.
Right.
It's just an opportunity for everybody to think about it and give feedback.
Right. Do I have any discussion or motions?
I have some discussion.
Yeah.
I have 8 points that I'd like to discuss about the work that he did for us. And boy, am I tired of talking about him, so I've got it one more time. I'm going to do this one more time. First of all, the very first thing you did when you first came in here, Mr. Meek, was you took an anonymous handwritten letter that came to the port on lined paper like this, y'all. This is what it was written on in Catholic school writing, okay? I know what it looks like. Handwritten paper. And on that paper, somebody handwrote police report. Now, if you've never seen a police report,
Mr. Chairman, a point of order.
Yes, go ahead.
We have to have a motion before we have discussion. Therefore, I move that we retain Clay Meek as our attorney.
I'll second.
Right. Now, proceed with
Now
discussion.
Okay. So again, you took an attorney, a lawyer, received an anonymous letter with no name on it. It was handwritten. It was claiming to be a police report. And in that report, or whatever it was, I was accused of violence and screaming racial slurs in the road in front of my house that I managed back then. Standing in the road, screaming racial slurs and violence. That's what this report said on it. It actually had nothing to do with the port, so it was basically recalling what, if that had been true, some kind of immoral behavior. So you took that, and you took it after I had already advised, this had already come up to the port. I had already advised all the members on the port that I was not guilty of the accusation and that I had video and eyewitness testimony.
Which you never provided.
You didn't ask me.
But we did. You didn't.
Oh, no, sir, you didn't. Listen, we're not going to have no more of this fibbing.
Yeah,
We're going
yeah.
to go back to the recording, and I will pull every time you say you said something and you didn't, I will pull it up. I'm not finished, and you're interrupting me.
Go ahead.
You let me finish my points before anybody interrupts me here, please. So after I had advised you, I also told the city police, and they didn't want to see the video either, and nor did they want to see the eyewitness reports, affidavits. Now, so after all of that, this commission had just agreed, every one of us sitting here agreed that there would be we didn't need to have any further action. Now, we can pull that up on the audio too, if it still exists, because we are missing some audio. So here we go. After you received this anonymous handwritten thing, after the port said we don't need any more action, after I said I was not guilty and I could prove it, you decided with Chairman Brown to go off and write a resolution out of the sunshine. Were you supposed to have a resolution discussed, decide we need a resolution, then you get to charge the taxpayers. So, without a signed contract to even work for this board, you wrote a resolution outside of the sunshine, then popped it in on us. Okay. Now, the problem with this,
Mr. Chairman, I call the question.
I'm not finished yet.
No, hang on. This is a
call the
point of
question.
order. Yes, go ahead.
I call the question.
Oh, I see. So meaning forcing the vote, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so,
I'm not finished.
no. It doesn't matter. We're advancing the question.
Public comment.
No.
So you're not going to allow me to finish stating the illegal items that he has performed. I just want to know, you are not going to allow me to finish stating for this board illegal things this man has committed on behalf of
Following
this commission.
parliamentary
I'm following
procedure.
parliamentary procedure.
I want to
This
know,
is how this
am I not
works.
going to be finished?
No, we're
Okay.
going to vote on the issue. You can
Okay,
say
so
the
why
rest is...
why do you not, just out of curiosity, why does nobody here want to hear what he has done illegally that's going to cost us a lawsuit?
Because you have brought it up at every meeting since
Okay,
he started
that's your
here.
reason? How do you know? I haven't finished my points. That's just point number 1. I've got 8.
Does anybody
Commissioner
disagree with me?
Flowers,
You've
the
already
police
done this
report
100
was authentic
Sir, I did an interview with Chief Fox directly to my face, and he told me it was never a police report.
I saw it myself.
So,
You saw it? Oh, okay, that's all right. I think we've said enough. If you're not going to let me finish telling, as a commissioner, the reason we should not rehire this man, I guess that I need to stop.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Great. New business, C, improper commissioner actions.
Yes, thank you. I've got an outline that can be projected that will probably assist with the discussion of it. I don't know from talking with Elise the procedure to get it pulled up, or whether it will work.
You might just want to make the power.
Can't hear you. I will, in lieu of providing details from PowerPoint later, if that's apparently not an option, I'll go through it with a written outline and share what I am going to review with each commissioner by email at the conclusion of this hearing whenever I'm back to my desk. So you can all read the notes from it that way. But essentially, the outline PowerPoint goes from the question of, approaches it from the question of options for dealing with various degrees of inappropriateness. And the PowerPoint starts off with the fact that there are differing levels of disagreement that can occur within this type of setting, and why that can be expressed, and that in certain contexts it's actually a good thing. Continuing along that page of the PowerPoint, obviously the district has no voice other than through the collective voice of the commission. It can't speak without you all speaking. No commissioner alone can speak for the district, and disagreements within reason are both common and good because they allow differing viewpoints to be aired with decorum so that everyone can fully consider a point. The question arises and the issue comes up when certain actions or inactions are highly improper and beyond the range of a simple debate and discussion of differing viewpoints. And views and disagreements on any level should be expressed so that the public has an opportunity to know where each commissioner stands. And again, I apologize that this isn't up there, but the last point on what is page 2 that I will forward to you is, I think, particularly important for this particular discussion, because on a certain level, even if no individual commissioner is saying something or doing something that a large portion of the public might consider inappropriate, at some point there is a concern that silence or lack of rebuke could be considered by some people to be condoning the behavior or impliedly indicating that the behavior is appropriate, even if that commissioner wasn't the one doing it. There are varying ways of expressing disagreement on issues depending upon the context. Obviously, in every commission meeting, each commissioner votes on every agenda item, and it's not at all uncommon or improper to have differing votes on particular items, but that gives the public and each commissioner an opportunity to know what's being discussed and where people stand. There's also the ability to express viewpoints in commission by individual members publicly stating within the meeting what they consider appropriate or inappropriate. I think in this meeting and in several other recent meetings, there have been multiple comments by various commissioners as to behavior that needed to stop or be paused so that orderly proceedings could go forward. And that is, of course, a way of expressing that the inappropriate behavior needed to stop, be paused, or otherwise is not acceptable to whatever commissioner is saying, please stop it. The next potential area of expressing disagreement with inappropriate conduct would be for the commission to reprimand or censure commissioner conduct. It would need to be placed on the agenda. There would need to be a specific point that this particular behavior or this particular commissioner's behavior is going to be discussed, and a decision is going to be made whether the commission as a whole wishes to make a public expression that the district does not stand for or condone this type of behavior. The next level, sort of going up in the stair steps of the ability to express disapproval with inappropriate behavior, would be referring a matter or a commissioner behavior to the governor, who has the sole authority for suspension or removal of an elected official such as would be on this board. And just to follow up a little bit on that last point, specifically, individually and collectively, nobody on this commission can remove a commissioner or suspend a commissioner. That solely rests within the jurisdiction of the governor, and the only ability to contest that, if a person wanted to, would be to then hold a trial in effect in front of the Florida Senate. But this commission, as a body, does have the power to say, here's what's going on here. We think it warrants removal or suspension. Governor, rather than us speaking as individuals, this elected body requests that you look at this situation and pass judgment on it. Moving on to the next page of the PowerPoint, and again, I apologize. I really intended you all to be able to follow this. There are, under the Florida Constitution, Article 4, Section 7, there are enumerated 7 different categories of behaviors that are regarded or generally accepted as appropriate grounds for suspension or removal. Again, going back to the prior points, that anything that would be appropriate for suspension or removal would certainly be appropriate for, as a body, saying we censure this conduct or we rebuke this conduct. The 7 different categories are malfeasance, misfeasance, neglect of duty, drunkenness, incompetence, permanent inability to perform official duties, or commission of a felony. And to the extent the governor ever did remove a person, the governor would have the power to appoint a person to serve in that role until the next election so that the spot could be filled. What I just went over is the authority for suspensions under the Florida Constitution, but also if we look at this particular body's charter, Section 12 of the charter does state that in the event of any commissioner shall be found guilty of intentional and willful misfeasance, nonfeasance, or malfeasance in office, he or she shall be subject to removal by the governor in the manner provided by law for the removal of county officers. So to the extent anyone, both on the commission or in the public, had any question as far as authority within the charter, it's there. And the charter, in essence, by using that language, bootstraps into the full 7 enumerated factors under the Florida Constitution. So there's ample authority for improper behavior, both by action or inaction, being appropriate for any of the 4 different remedies or chastisements that I went over earlier. Moving to the first of the 7 enumerated factors, malfeasance.
I'm sorry, sir, can I ask a question as you go along? Because if I got it, because like that, what did you just say, inaction? So, just a question. So it's like, if we voted to file a lawsuit against Taylor, and then you as an attorney are aware of that, and you took no action, would that be the same as inaction?
It's so far away from any of the concept that I'm discussing.
I don't think so.
I'm
You
not
didn't take
elected,
action.
Commissioner
Okay.
Flowers.
Okay.
I am not. I am not an elected official in any way, shape, or form.
But you were hired to be our
This does
attorney. You're
not
supposed to take
apply
action
to
on
me.
it.
Andy, let him finish.
You do
Your
take action on
behavior
public
right
mandates.
now
Andy,
does
let him
directly
finish.
apply to what I am discussing.
Okay, well, here's the question.
Interrupting, shouting, speaking over people, that is inappropriate.
Can I ask
It
a
is
question
not
now?
technically, no, this is not your time. You will have time. This is
I'm
my
gonna write it
time.
down.
What you are discussing right now, what you're giving a perfect example of right now, is not technically malfeasance, but it is one of the other factors we are going to get to in a moment.
So in other
Going
words, you're
back to
trying
it-
to
No,
get
no,
me-
no, no.
Okay. So I can't ask you
this
questions
not-
as you go
You
along.
will ask as many questions
Don't ask
as the
questions.
board or commission wishes to
Oh,
when
I
I
can
am
remember.
finished. You're not going to interrupt it before then.
Go right ahead, sir. I don't
Going
wanna
back
waste
to
any more time.
malfeasance, Florida Statute 112.313 outlines the standards of conduct for public officers. That statutory section includes the language that indicates that a public officer shall not corruptly use or attempt to use his or her official position to secure a special privilege or benefit. And that particular improper category of behavior is particularly important in this situation. While it's not generally been made aware to the entire public, I know the commission is aware of many of the emails that have been shared back and forth, many of which are directed between Commissioner Flowers and I, regarding the fact that Commissioner Flowers has, in my opinion, and I believe it is factually based to support it, but it's the judgment of the commission, has frequently made what I would call blended requests of both myself, other quote-unquote staff members of the district, as well as outside governmental entities.
For records.
No, ma'am, stop interrupting.
For records.
She makes requests for public entities to do things that she appears to wish to do in her individual capacity, and alternates between saying, I'm making this as the request of Commissioner Flowers, or I'm making this on the request of Sandy Flowers. Using and looking at that pattern of conduct, there does appear to be a clear intent to use the position of commissioner to get special favor, special privileges from both district staff as well as outside governmental entities to requests that she would not be treated the same if she didn't throw around the title of commissioner as she's making those requests. Moving to the second of the 7 enumerated factors that are appropriate for consideration for rebuke of an elected official is the issue of misfeasance. And misfeasance is generally described through case law as performance in an official capacity of a legal act in an improper or illegal manner. And in all honesty, I could spend 100 hours and I could not come up with an exhaustive and complete list of the number of times Commissioner Flowers has stated facts in meetings as a commissioner which are false or reasonably should be known to be false. That is the commission of an act that is appropriate. Being a commissioner and voicing things in commission is legal to do. What is not appropriate to do is repeatedly spew out falsehoods that are demonstrably false, not opinion, but actual facts about every single governmental entity that has ever come before here in the time I've been here, as well as every single quote-unquote staff member. Myself, Elise, Taylor Engineering, I'm not bringing them into this. They have not stated anything to me about this. This is based on my own personal observation of what has been said. Not to mention each and every other commissioner that sits on this board, falsehoods have been stated. And again, I want to make it very clear, there is a huge difference between stating opinions, giving thoughts on where things should be, giving thoughts on where things might have been in the past as far as policy, judgment calls. That's one thing, and that's appropriate for any commissioner to talk about. What is not appropriate is to sit up there and use that microphone to speak over people, interrupt people, and spew falsehoods. That is, and again, I'll tell you ahead of time, I could not come up with a complete list. There have simply been so many. I can come up with a whole bunch of them. And that is the poster child for misfeasance. Above and beyond simply what has been stated in these meetings, it is also appropriate for commissioners to communicate by email within the proper settings. And that's the next PowerPoint I have as far as sunshine and communications, if we have time to get to that here today. But the same question as far as stating as fact things that are known to be false or should reasonably known to be false is replete within the number of emails. I have seen commissioners attacked with falsehoods. I'm not going to republish them, and they're not in this outline in specifics, because at some point continuing to say this is not true, this is not true, this is not true sticks a spotlight on something that shouldn't have a spotlight on it. But to the extent making knowingly false factual statements verbally in this commission is inappropriate, which it is under misfeasance, making the emails both within the commission setting and with outside governmental entities would also be misfeasance, because it's coming from Commissioner Flowers as a commissioner. Moving to the third of the 7 enumerated criteria for justifying suspension, removal, or lesser rebuke. That is the criteria of neglect of duty. Article 1, Section 2 of the Florida Constitution states, "All natural persons, female and male alike, are equal before the law and have inalienable rights, among which are the right to enjoy and defend life and liberty, to pursue happiness, to be rewarded for industry, and to acquire, possess, and protect property. No person shall be deprived of any right because of race, religion, national origin, or physical disability." Every single commissioner on the district has taken an oath of office, which oath includes the statement, "I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and of the state of Florida." Going back to, ironically, what was brought up earlier by Commissioner Flowers herself, one of the very first things I did when the public was caused to view the district in a negative light due to allegations that appeared in the press was to create a resolution so that every single commissioner could state publicly, and thereby the district in a unified voice could state publicly, we stand for the Constitution of the state of Florida. We do vow to uphold it. We do not in any way condone behavior that is alleged to infringe upon people's rights, just as this. And as the resolution itself reflects, as the recorded minutes of the meeting reflect, as the written minutes of the meeting reflect, every single commissioner, except one, saw that as a very easy, no-brainer resolution to sign off on. It literally was a resolution, we agree to follow the Constitution of the state of Florida. And only one commissioner refused to indicate agreement with that. It is your duty as commissioners to uphold the Constitution of the state of Florida. Commissioner Flowers is officially on the record as saying she refuses to sign off on that. There are grounds for the third of the three enumerated reasons for removal or suspension. And before I get into the fourth one, let me just point out a reminder. It's under case law, which is abundant, you don't have to show 4 of 7. You don't have to show 2 of 7. 1 of 7 is more than enough to justify removal or suspension. The fact that I'm pointing out how there is action and inaction under each and every one of these is simply because, out of respect to the commissioners, some of you may view some of these points differently, and in the extent to which anyone thinks, I don't see number 2, but I do see number 3, I don't want anyone to be misled into thinking you have to get the entire laundry list. Any of them is sufficient. It's just a very, very unique circumstance that we happen to have a situation where someone is hitting every single one of them. Moving on to the next one, which I kind of grouped together, because it's the next 2 really that are pertinent to here. That's nonfeasance, incompetence, drunkenness, and permanent inability to perform official duties. Similar to 2 items ago, I literally could not come up with an exhaustive list of the number of times the issue of sunshine law, what is appropriate email communication, and what is not has been addressed. I know that has been a lingering issue. I know that some have alleged, and by some I am not in any way referring to 4 commissioners that are here today, but some have alleged that perhaps it's just sufficiently unclear. I would respectfully submit that I have given the same message to each of the 5 commissioners. 4 of y'all have not had a problem with that. 4 of y'all have not had an issue with complying with the sunshine law. 4 of y'all don't have any difficulty understanding what you're supposed to do and not supposed to do to comply with the sunshine law. 1 of you just either by intent or mental defect doesn't get it. And the fact that 4 of you get it when 1 doesn't, no, not yet. You will have your time.
Mental defect.
That may be the most appropriate one.
That's a good one.
The fact that 4 of you understand it, do not need to have it repeated over and over and over again, is probably the best evidence I could point to at the fact that it's not the message, it's not the messenger, it's the one specific recipient that simply doesn't get it or refuses to get it. And the reason I grouped those last things together is exactly kind of because of that little outburst we just had there a moment ago. The only potential question or issue I could imagine for the other criteria that I've just gone over somehow not applying would be if, as a lawyer, invariably, it's a character flaw, you have to reverse the field and look at it from the other side. The only possible reason I could see why none of the other criteria would apply would be the quote-unquote defense of just don't have the ability to get over that mental hurdle. There's no intent there, but it's just not capable of doing it. In which case, if that's the situation, if that's what Ms. Flowers is going to go over once it's her time to talk, then that is the poster child for the last, which is incompetence and a permanent inability to perform official duties. If she can't get it right when it comes to requirement of retaining records through emails, through Facebook posts, through other things, which has been repeatedly requested and never provided, if she can't get it right as far as following the Sunshine Law, and the only reason she can't get it right or claims that she can't get it right is that she doesn't understand, which...
I've never said I didn't understand anything. I will
Stop.
not stop.
Stop interrupting.
That was a hypothetical.
Stop lying.
I appreciate you making some of my points for
Stop
me by
lying.
doing that, but it's not appropriate. It wasn't appropriate when I prepared this outline. It
lying.
wasn't appropriate in every other commission meeting I've ever been at where you were here, and it's not appropriate now.
Please
But to the
finish.
extent that the claimed justification for the prior improper behavior is there was no intent behind it because there's a lack of mental ability to understand the concept, then that's the poster child for nonfeasance and an inability to perform official duties simply because of incompetence. If you can't understand what you have to do under the Sunshine Law and these other criteria, then you shouldn't be a commissioner. If you do understand it and simply refuse to follow the law and the guidance, then we go back to the other criteria that we just went over. That's the last of the points that I have as far as the conduct itself that is potentially worthy of rebuke, whether it be from censure, reprimand, or referral to the governor. Beyond that point, those points and what's not in the outline are a couple of pragmatic considerations that I would share, that some of which can't be looked up, but some of which I'm familiar with just through contacts throughout the state as far as how these things go. Governor DeSantis obviously would be the governor that would look at this if it was an issue of removal or suspension. It is a matter of public record, and anyone can look it up, that Governor DeSantis has not hesitated when he felt it appropriate to suspend an elected official. He has done that repeatedly in the state of Florida. What Governor DeSantis has not on record ever done is ultimately permanently removed an official. I am not aware of any public outward statement as to the thought process or reasoning behind that. I will say that anecdotally, it is my belief and understanding that the governor may hold a belief that the ultimate taking someone completely out of office forever is the role of the electorate, and that he does not wish to cross that, while at the same time suspensions do send a very powerful message that the behavior is not going to be condoned, but the public is still going to have their role in deciding whether you're the representative for the next event or not. And again, to be abundantly clear, I know this is what I said, but I don't want there to be any doubt about this. I've not spoken with the governor about this. I've not spoken with anyone in the governor's office about this. None of what I have just said has come from the governor or anyone with the governor's office. This is my surmising of how to read what has happened and not happened at the governor's office regarding removals and suspensions as to what I suspect the thought process is there. Another somewhat pragmatic concern is, in all honesty, I did not check the records before coming here today because I had a couple of other fires to put out. But at least as of last week, I did not see that Commissioner Flowers had filed any paperwork indicating an intention to seek re-election to her spot. to the extent the commission as a whole feels removal or suspension is something that the governor should consider. In all candor, I think if Commissioner Flowers does not file to run again, I'd be very shocked if the governor would actually do something. I think the governor would look at it and say, yeah, that was reprehensible, but they're not going to be an elected official whether I do anything or not after the next election. Obviously, it's not June yet, so there's still time. Papers could be filed. As far as what the commission...
Excuse me, Clay,
I'm sorry, yes.
how much longer is this presentation?
I'm wrapping up.
Okay, thank you.
Obviously, this commission does have the ability to reprimand or suspend. I would suggest that to the extent the commission as a whole thinks removal or suspension is a bridge to cross, I think that particular item would be best placed on an agenda after the filing deadline for the election so that the commission is not doing something that's going to be moot. Beyond that, I do strongly encourage the commission, whether it be by vote, reprimand, or censure, for each of the 4 commissioners that aren't Commissioner Flowers to state whether they agree or disagree with her behaviors. I know you all to be very good commissioners and very good elected officials, but I think the public deserves to know as well. And that is all. I apologize to the extent I went long.
When can I talk, Chairman?
You can go ahead and talk.
Okay, great. Just one thing I'd like to say is, or ask, who asked you to put together this PowerPoint and how much did it cost the taxpayers?
I suggested
So
to put
you
this
just
together.
went
I've
and did
suggested it
several hours?
multiple times. Because
So you
of your
went and did the
behavior
several hours of-
throughout the time you've been a commissioner. while
Again,
I've
the
been
question
here.
was, who asked you to put this, so nobody asked you to put this together?
And my answer
Okay.
was what I just gave you.
All right, so you just did it, and how much did it cost us, just roughly?
I
How many
do
hours?
not know,
Okay,
Commissioner
I'll check,
Flowers.
okay.
If it is the will of the board that this was a futile effort,
Okay,
I
let me
will,
finish
Ms.
with my
Flowers,
questions.
I may
Now it's
finish
my
with-
turn to talk, be
You ask
quiet.
the question, I
You
get to
never
answer
stop
it.
him.
You asked him
He
a
answered the question.
No, he
I am
wasn't
not done answering
Obviously,
it.
he wasn't done.
Apparently, I'm not the only one with a problem then.
If it is the will of the commission as a whole that this was a wasted or problematic effort on my part, I will be happy to not bill the commission for this effort. It remains my opinion that this commission needs to publicly state whether they are approving or not approving of Commissioner Flowers' outbursts and other behavior.
Okay, so the question is, no one asked you to do it, and you don't know how much offhand it cost us. All right. So when you referred to Commissioner Flowers doesn't know whether she's asking as a commissioner or as a Sandy Flowers. See, when I asked for the records from Taylor Engineering, which we don't have, you kept telling me we did, but we don't. Now, you didn't go to the office, I guess, because we don't have a set of those records, and we have as you know, we have a public mandate to move forward on the case, and we can't move forward without the records. And when I asked her, she said, well, are you asking for them as Sandy, as a commissioner? I said, I don't care. I just want the records. So I'm not flipping flop back and forth. You're the flipper and flopper. I send it to you as a commission, and you spend lots of tax dollars saying, well, how are you asking for this? Are you asking for this as yourself? You see where I'm going. I won't waste y'all's time.
Commissioner
Next-
Flowers, do you
Yes.
mind if I speak on that particular
Yes,
point
please,
as
go ahead.
well? The public records requests made by Commissioner Flowers, you alluded to it as being blending. I personally do not think it's an abuse of her power. I think there's probably some confusion. Quite frankly, I do think our records should be a lot easier to locate, find, and search. And I don't think a commissioner should have to resort to a public records request to see historical information. I know for me personally, it would be really awesome if we could just have it all a lot more accessible. This is an issue that keeps coming up. I'm really kind of stunned by this presentation, to be honest. You know, quite frankly, I'm not a fan of Commissioner Flowers' behavior. I do think it's rude and unprofessional, and it's distracting, and it's time-consuming. Look at what we're all doing, sitting here listening to this. But without any sort of instruction from any one of us to dig this all up, I mean, I'm sorry, I am nowhere near asking Governor DeSantis to remove Commissioner Flowers. I think she needs some etiquette training and how to be kinder and more polite to her fellow commissioners. But I'm really surprised by this presentation. I do not want this board charged for your time on it.
I'm sorry.
That's all I
May I
have.
speak to
Can I
those two
fin- No,
points?
I'm sorry, I'm at my questions. Can I please?
May I speak to those 2 points?
It was my turn to speak, and I allowed her to make a comment. Now, let me finish. I'll let you. You just recently, in response to what she just said, I just recently, again, it's been settled by this board multiple times that if any commissioner wants records that belong to the commission, they are entitled to them for free. I sent a recent record request to the city for records that belong to the commission as Commissioner Sandy Flowers, not as the board, as Commissioner Sandy Flowers. You contacted them, you canceled my records request, you apologized on behalf of the board for me requesting the records, and then you told the city that I continue to violate the Sunshine Law by doing so, by requesting those records. Okay, completely wrong. Could you please, let's see, you said I stated falsehoods, and I'll tell you one thing, sir, because this will end up in court, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Telling me I state falsehoods, one thing I don't do in this thing is everything comes out of my mouth because I spend so much time on this. I have got the proof of it in an email or on the audio that is already obtained by me at my house. So I can just tell you, I don't sit here and tell falsehoods. And you've accused me now of lying. Let's see, now I cannot do my official duties if I can't get records. Ms. West, I want to tell you something. One of the frustrations you are feeling and hearing from me, quite truly, is that for 4 years almost, I've been trying to get records. I talked to you before you ever ran. I've never gotten the Summer Haven records, and yet we have a public mandate to do something about it. You're very familiar with that? And this man won't move forward. He refuses to after a long meeting. This is why we need to do it. And instead he says falsehoods. You need to pull those out so that I have a chance to defend myself. And one last thing, because I'm not going to waste any more people's times. Could you please give me an example of the special favors and benefits I asked for?
I did in the presentation.
No. You said just over and over I would ask for special favors and benefits. You never gave me an example, because all I've ever asked for is records that belong to this port. And every time I've asked for them, you have come in and said, you can't represent the port. I never do. Never say the port's asking. I say, I'm asking as commissioner, can I please get these records? And you come in right behind me and do that thing. Cancel my record request, apologize. You have no business apologizing on behalf of this port. So now, since you don't give me any other choice, and you really don't, and the port has voted to keep you here, please make sure you make the next meeting, because I'm going to serve you with the lawsuit, and I'm going to also send you a copy of the bar complaint that I'll be filing. So you have basically defamation, malpractice, and this thing about I gave you the Attorney General's thing about the emails. I've not broken the law one time, and you've probably accused me 50 times of breaking that law. So make sure you're at the next meeting, because I'm going to serve you with a lawsuit, and that's all I'll be able to say about it now. As your position as port attorney, and by the way, you don't have any malpractice insurance, do you? Do you have any malpractice insurance? Okay.
And neither here nor there, Commissioner
You don't
Flowers.
have, no, that's a question. You don't have any, I think all of our contracts should make
There's
sure
a
people
difference
include.
between a question and a
Malpractice.
pertinent question.
Okay, do you
That was
have
my
any
point.
malpractice insurance? That's a real pertinent question.
Still the same answer.
You won't answer it. Okay, well, make sure you come, because I don't want to go chasing you down to serve you in your capacity as port attorney, because we decided to play look-away game. Oh, by the way, just for the port, the time is ticking. It's almost over. Taylor Engineer is going to walk away with that mess they did at Summer Haven in spite of our mandate coming up something like May or June.
2 points in brief. Just to address the concerns of Commissioner West. I certainly understand and respect that it is the Commission's choice as to how any staff responds to Commission requests. My issue that I was attempting and apparently did not properly convey is there is a difference between any of you doing something as Commissioner and any of you doing something as an individual. And the problem is the leaping back and forth, because you can't be treated the same, because it's a different hat that you're wearing at the time. And
I've always requested
And as
Let
to
him
the second
finish.
point, I apologize also if I was unclear in the overall presentation. I presented it in the framework of these are the criteria for suspension and removal, because there's case law that says what's appropriate, what isn't appropriate. Again, as I I'm sorry, I didn't properly convey, I don't, it's the commission's choice, certainly, but I don't think you cross the bridge of suspension or removal today or at the next meeting, because I do think it would potentially be a futile effort. But I do think it's appropriate to look at the actions and inactions in that context to decide whether censure or rebuke is appropriate on behalf of the commission, to say as a body, we don't like this type of behavior, we don't stand for this type of behavior, and that's it. Admittedly, it has no teeth as far as repercussions, but it does give each commissioner and the commission as a whole a chance to say publicly, that may be what happens, but that's not what we're about. That's not what this district is about.
I appreciate that, and when you were speaking, I was actually looking online for other examples of elected officials in Florida that had been subject to censure. And, you know, certainly some of the outbursts, that has been activity that's been censured in other local governments. I really wish we could move forward in just a respectful way so we can get the stuff done that the people who put us into office expect. And, you know, to that point, Commissioner Flowers, if there's just a way we can move through the agenda without the disruptions and the interruptions, if we would be so much more effective if we could just move forward with respect for each other.
Oh, I want to do it too. I want you and this board to know, and everybody here to know. One of the first things I did, the reason I'm on this board, is I sent an email to this board and said, where do you keep the public records? Because you know we're entitled to know, to actually physically inspect them. And I got an email that said, quote, somewhere, unquote. I need you to understand the frustration that I have dealt with. I dealt with the first lawyer over here that was watching Taylor Engineering take our delegated authority, watching them take things out. And if I hadn't just said it over and over again, I had a special meeting, everybody came, we agreed to do something on it, and then we played we're still playing the look-away game. These are serious crimes. And there are laws in the state that says we are responsible for this money. If we do nothing, we can be held responsible. And here we voted to do something, and this man just, matter of fact, y'all, all he does is protect Taylor. And so I just need you to understand the frustration from my end of being called a liar, of being called all kinds of things, when I've got everything out of my mouth. I've always said, ask me for the evidence, I'll be glad to send it. This is frustration.
But frustration doesn't justify that behavior.
Okay, well, that's
Clay-
my example for it. So I'll be suing you next month when you're here.
Clay, what do you recommend we do? Like in your heart of hearts, how do we proceed from here? Because it's been 4 years and nothing is changing or getting any better. You know, where do we go?
I recommend that the board or the commission vote to censure or rebuke, make a public statement that this is not acceptable behavior, and place on the agenda something for the first meeting after the filing deadline, consideration of referral for suspension or removal.
So we need to put that on the agenda for next month then, right? That
Well,
needs to be a
the
notice?
deadline's June.
Sorry,
so-
just for the censure though, like to vote, that needs
Yes,
to be
sir.
a properly
Yes, sir.
noticed.
Yes, sir, I
right.
apologize. Yes.
Okay. So I would move that we put that on the agenda for next month, on the advice of our attorney. Public comment will be in a few more minutes here. We have one more business item.
Okay.
Nope. Sorry, that was a motion. Was there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor?
I'm sorry, could you
Sorry,
repeat what we're voting on?
voting on censure. Censure and rebuke of Commissioner Flowers for her continued inability. Yes, that's to place it on the agenda.
Public comment.
Public comment is coming up after new business.
286, I'd write the public comment now. Bring it along.
No, you're not. I had a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
No, so that's 3-2 in favor. Great. Next is sunshine law presentation.
I voted no.
Oh, is that a no?
Yeah,
Okay, so
sorry.
motion fails.
I
Excuse
just,
me.
I think that at this point, this far into the situation, that
ship has sailed.
it could take us care of itself. And to,
Are you sure,
And-
Mr. Wade? Because I'd like to bring in the affidavits. I'd like to, again, I don't say things without proof. I can bring in the people that were there that day. Because if we're
Well,
going to, I mean, more than that, they are so happy to come and talk to
That doesn't change
them.
my mind about it.
Okay, so motion fails. Next up is sunshine law presentation.
I'm going to move
sorry.
to actually have that on the next agenda, because I really, if you have a PowerPoint presentation, and I know this has come up before, I want to see it. And we just need to get the AV equipment ready to go in advance of the meeting taking place
We have to be out of here.
by 5.
So
Sorry.
Jane, I'm sorry, you're
My-
suggesting they redo the presentation?
The motion
No,
is to
no.
push the presentation to next month.
The Sunshine Law presentation.
gotcha,
Yeah, yeah.
So that we have a motion on the floor to push that to next month.
I'll second it.
There's a second. All in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. Next up is public comment.
Thank you, Commissioners, for voting down that god-awful resolution. I couldn't believe that he brought that up.
Would you hold the mic closer, Ed? I can't.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Ed Slavin, staugustgreen.com, Fox 3084. Thank you, Commissioner West. Thank you, Commissioner. I am floored that he brought that up. And I really appreciate the three of y'all voting it down. It was a sin.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It was a sin, a crime, and a tort. I didn't hear out of his lips the words First Amendment protected activity at all. He didn't discuss a pertinent U.S. Supreme Court case that might have been discussed, that I've told Commissioner Flowers about. A board can censure a member, as in the Houston Community College case. He's so unscholarly, he didn't even read that case. It was in the New York Times. It was everywhere. But Chris and Jane and Sandy, I'm sorry he wasted your time that way. Would y'all, one of y'all who voted to rehire him, would you please maybe at the next meeting move to reconsider under Robert's Rules of Order? Because he was brought in here for a purpose, it appears. He was brought in here, in my opinion, to attack Commissioner Flowers. The prior attorney arranged for him to apply, it would appear, and he had his work cut out for him. Now, there was a fellow by the name of Barry Mark Benjamin who encumbered a seat on this board for 20-some years. Commissioner Flowers rightly raised concerns, and I shared those concerns. And I put it in a 120-paragraph document that I sent to Vicki Oakes. Finally, Barry Mark Benjamin, because he was a non-resident, not only a non-resident of the St. Augustine Port Waterway and Beach District, he was a non-resident of St. Johns County. He was living with his wife at his mother's residence in Duval County. And none of y'all, Ms. West wasn't on the board at the time, other than Commissioner Flowers. The rest of y'all didn't want to do anything about it. But now we hear complaints because she filed records complaints. I think she deserves a tribute. She deserves a special day by St. Johns County. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Dean, the chairman of St. Johns County Commission, to honor Commissioner Flowers with a Sandy Flowers Day because she has performed a public service. Summer Haven litigation has not been filed. That man refused to do his job. He wouldn't file a lawsuit. He wouldn't associate competent counsel. He does not have malpractice insurance. He attempted to charge me a deposit of $500 at the rate of $250 an hour. Apparently, he thinks he's a clerical employee. Under Florida Statute 119, he can't do that. He's not the record keeper. Ms. Kemper is the record keeper. He referred to staff. Y'all don't have a staff, and that's one of the issues that Commissioner Flowers has been raising for 4 years. You don't have any employees. You have an independent contractor who's the Secretary Treasurer who attempted to charge me $50 an hour for my first records request, which was blatantly illegal. She collected money, Ms. Elise Kemper did, from Ms. Flowers when she was a citizen, before she was elected commissioner. She was elected to be here to raise issues. She was elected as a reformer, and the people love her, the boating people, the boat people, the community of people who are boaters. They love her, and they like the issues that she's raised. This board was created in 1937. Some people want to abolish it, like Senator Hudson has attacked, and is currently, we're waiting to hear from the governor as to whether he will sign an illegal, unconstitutional bill that basically targets the soil and water conservation districts. Because an environmentalist who helped to successfully, I just split an infinitive, I'm so upset, I'm sorry, I don't usually split infinitives. Senator Hudson's bill, SB 1073 or whatever it is, targets.
1078.
I'm sorry?
1078.
1078, thank you. Awful bill. You read about it. And hopefully it'll be vetoed. If not, I hope that Nicole Crosby and every single environmental organization in the state of Florida, including Earth Justice, including all the river keepers, I hope everybody sues. But our First Amendment rights as American citizens in the state of Florida are under attack. And I thank you, Chris and Sandy and Jane, for standing up for First Amendment rights and for telling that man he needs to find a new job. I think his walking papers are hopefully going to happen. Hopefully one of y'all will make a motion. At least let's do a search. And I have encouraged Ralph Brooks, in the event there is a vacancy, to apply. We don't need to have a tax on First Amendment protected activity by government officials. And we've seen that in this county and in this state and in this nation too much in the last few years. But from the bottom of my heart, Chris and Jane and Sandy, thank you for all you do. The rest of y'all, as Bobby Kennedy once wrote in a book inscription to a segregationist senator, repent now, there's still time. God bless you. Thank you.
Any other public comment? No? Comments by commissioners. Tom?
Beginning of every new term for a commissioner, we have to remember that no individual member speaks for themselves, for this board. We have to speak in one voice together, so we have to learn to work together. And it's just something you have to remember. Your voice is nothing when you leave that room, except as an individual.
As a commissioner.
But when we do something in the name of the board, it has to come from this board, all of us, all 5 of us.
Chris?
Well, I just thought that presentation just reinforced it. I don't think that there's any behavioral issues on my part that I have to change. So I'll just say that.
Spoken like a true politician. I wanted to just ask Jane if you are prepared to talk at all about the bill that you mentioned that's attacking Disney that could potentially also dissolve this board.
That's a great question. So what Matt's referring to, just before this meeting started, I noted that I was happy to be back from Tallahassee because it was a brutal session. But as many of you may know, there's a special session that started today. And at the very last minute this morning, Governor DeSantis added to the agenda, which was simply supposed to be about adopting redistricting maps, added to the agenda dissolving and you might know more about this, Clay, but dissolving special districts that were formed prior to 1968. This is viewed as a very direct retaliatory effort because it targets the Reedy Creek district, which is basically Disney, which was formed in 1967, and the governor and Disney are having it out over some culture wars. But it's a great question on whether or not it would affect our commission. So, I just heard it through a Twitter feed that I was monitoring earlier today. I've been in meetings all day, so I don't know what happened at the session. I guess we should all just pay attention and look into this issue a little bit more. Maybe it was more specifically crafted to just Orange County. I just don't know. So
That mean we're not going to get the $1,200 a year?
right.
Oh, no.
I know.
Gotta regroup.
There are tea leaves there to be read,
Right.
but commenting on them here is not the right time or place.
Why are you saying that? This is commissioner comments.
Because I was just asked a question that
No.
I was responding to.
I didn't hear a question.
I did pose a
Yeah,
question.
she did.
Is it my turn yet?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, my opinion on all of this shutting down special districts, and I know there'll be a lot of dissent on it, but if special districts are not going to have any oversight, special districts can give away contracts with over $300,000 without bidding, special districts break the law about insurance, maybe that's why they don't want special districts to be around. If we're just going to give out money and never follow up on it to make sure the money was spent correctly, like over at the city, we gave out 10 grants and 4 were canceled, and the money never came back, and yes, sir, I have an email to that effect, that it's a fact. Okay? Maybe it's very much, in my opinion, that we should ask the legislator to dissolve this board. That's all, thank you.
Great. With that, we can now adjourn. The next meeting will be May the 17th, right? Great, this meeting is adjourned. Somehow it just keeps getting stupider.